Hey gang, how are you doing? I trust this finds you well. Greetings to you wherever you may be at this particular moment. This is rather quite interesting news making headlines in our country. Maphisa Nqakula, the chairperson of parliament, has increased a salary of one of the employees, in this case the secretary of parliament, by 70%. 70. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Listen to this.
Powers and Privileges Committee has given National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula 1 week to provide a written explanation for increasing the salary of Secretary Xolile George. This comes after it emerged last year that George is earning almost 70% more than the 2.6 million rand salary Parliament earmarked for the job when it was advertised, or when it advertised the vacancy. The DA has written a complaint accusing Maphisa Nqakula of violating the Code of Conduct and Ethics. For more on this, we now speak to the DA Chief Whip, Siviwe Nqakula. Siviwe, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. So last year there was a statement that was issued by Parliament where they said that they had actually contracted a firm to look into benchmarking the salary of the Secretary based on what's happening at an international scale. Did you, as the opposition party, ever have sight of that report?
Good morning, Aldrin, and good morning to your viewers. No, we did not. The difficulty with the Parliament's version of events, and most certainly the Speaker, is that all of these seemingly either headhunting, now there's a contention by the Speaker that there was a headhunting process, there was a company that was contracted to review the salary. All of these things were done after the fact and after the Speaker came to Parliament and said this is what the Secretary to Parliament would be earning in accordance to the advertisement which was put out, which said it would be a total amount of 2.6 million rand. And afterwards, then that salary was hiked to more than 70% in less than a year. And none of this was ever shared with the members of Parliament. Yet, we adopted the motion as the House to appoint the Secretary on the basis that he would be paid this much money. And in fact, if one goes back to that sitting, when this matter was decided on, Aldrin, every single opposition party stood up and said, we may be supporting this, but it is on the basis that you will stick to what was advertised, because we were of the view that 2.6 million rand is what should a Secretary to Parliament be earning. And if then the presiding officers were saying this is not within what market related salaries would cost, then this should have been either presented to the House or they should have come back to members of Parliament to present such a case.
Yeah, and again, in that statement that...
We all know that the African National Congress and its comrades are corrupt to the core. But I think we don't talk enough about this, particularly the specificity of these issues, and act accordingly. Now we are going to elections. We need to amplify issues of this nature as much as we possibly could. The African National Congress simply has to go. Remember, this is not their money. This is our money, those of us who pay tax. Whose salary has ever been increased by that much? Consider the fact that Cyril didn't want to increase the public servant salaries. They had to go to a bargaining council, and they were locked. They were deadlocked. It took like a very long period of time for them to come to an agreement. This was last year. Consider the fact that Treasury announced last year through a letter and brought a moratorium on all hirings. Why? Because they didn't have the funding. So where is the money to give one individual 70%? I mean, 2.6 million, 70% of that would be something like 4.4 million, just counting out of my head. Of course, I could be wrong. But nevertheless, the point is, for me, they are now no longer hiding their corrupt activities. They are out there. They are doing it with impunity. They are snubbing us in our faces. They are saying, to hell with you. We don't care about your opinion. As Jacob Zuma used to say, we'll roll until Jesus Christ comes back. How is it that South Africans have gotten themselves into this position? What manner of a relationship do you have with the African National Congress that you think it necessary to keep them in power? You know, I went to a shop whose name I would not mention today, with my spouse, my wife. And in the shop, there was a guy wearing an ANC t-shirt. So I obviously saw that when at the corner of my eye, and I thought to myself, wow, what audacity. Are there people who are still wearing ANC t-shirts publicly like this? And apparently the teller that we were paying to overheard me asking this question to my spouse. And she responded that better the ANC than the EFF. Now, for me, it's neither here nor there. The two political parties have no business being given any opportunity to govern if South Africans know what's good for them. I mean, look at this. How do you explain? Now, Xolile George, I have absolutely nothing against or for him. I don't know him, never heard of him until he was appointed to this position. So I have nothing bad or good to say about him as an individual. I do not know him. So I'll give him a benefit of the doubt. But the minister, how dare, I mean, she's now the chairperson of Parliament. Where does she get the authority to do what she did? Now, of course, you understand that these people write the law. And this is where, for me, it's really, really, there's a language I'm not allowed to use. It really makes me mad. It really makes me mad to think about that the minister, who is the author of our law, can literally make herself law, because that's what she's doing now. If you look at the public service regulations, which governs the public servants' employment, which obviously they will argue that that is not applicable to people who work in Parliament, because those are semi-politicians, whatever the case may be, but you still need rules that are compliant to the labor relations of the country and to the constitution of the country. Where has such a jump in salary? Now, I'm told that Xolile George took a 50% cut of his salary to come to work in this space. That on its own should have given out as a red flag. Who, during this type of economy, would give away 50% of his salary? And it was claimed that it's for service for his country. Really? Then explain the 70% jump. It seems to me that this was pre-planned to be executed after the political parties have agreed with the African National Congress's presentation to Parliament. They knew very well they'll let the sleeping dogs lie, and they'll do this underhand tactics of theirs behind closed doors and hoping that nobody will know. As a matter of fact, they knew that even when people do find out, this is going to be on the news for a week or two at the very most, and then it will die its natural death, and people will just continue with their lives. You get the point. That is why I'm saying we don't talk enough about the ANC's corruption. The ANC is corrupt. I'm simply reminding you here why we need to remove the African National Congress from power. The ANC is corrupt. The African National Congress is corrupt to the core. They have absolutely no regard for our law. None whatsoever. If you consider that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land in South Africa, now, yes, indeed, when you consider that there are acts that governs different aspects, there's Basic Conditions of Employment Act, there's Labor Relations Act, there's Employment Equity Act. All these acts are acts that were promulgated to make the relationship between employer and employee a livable relationship where there is no dictatorship or slavery or servitude, for that matter, because this is outlawed in our Constitution, paragraph 13. But how do you explain this in the face of not only public servants? Who gets that much hike in salary? Please tell me. I don't know, guys. If this is not corruption, for me, this is corruption to the core. It cannot be explained why in this inflation, in this hunger, in this poverty, and as Gwarube further explained in this very video, that Parliament was bent to the ground. It needs to be rebuilt, okay? With all the stringent controls which were placed to tighten the fiscus, to say that the senior management structure, SMS, should not employ from August 2023 up until now, and yet you can give one individual this much amount of money, yet you claim that you didn't have money. Which one is true? Can you see what's going on here? Because remember that normally the public servants are people like you and me who went to school to be educated. They have not necessarily any political affiliations. So when they see a post, they apply based on their own credentials and hoping that they will be granted an opportunity for an interview and contest with everything and everybody else. But it's clear here that this Xolile George is obviously part of the cronies of the comrades, isn't it? That is why they are able, even though they have this role in place of not employing anybody in senior management structure for government, but they can go and employ him. And not only that, during this season of moratorium, they can give him 70% salary increase. Wow. I really, guys, I am lost for words, because I'm not a person who swears. There's a lot of swear words that I hear and I read about on TV and everywhere else that are now coming to my mind. So I think I should close this video before I obviously sin. But for me, this is a gross violation of our rights, and we need to remember, this is just one of the things we need to remember about these communists when we go to vote on the 29th of May. I will leave it at that. You comment, you like the video, and of course, if you have not yet subscribed, you subscribe. Once again, thank you for those who have been loyal to the video. I haven't posted much this year. This is probably my second video for the year. And yes, I promise I'll do a little bit more. It's just that I've been caught up in other activities that have demanded a lot out of my time in the past few weeks. But I'll do more to produce content going forward. Okay. Up until then, see you later. Ciao, ciao.